Hi, folks. I'm Bob Piorun, and this is my show, Musically Speaking. And today I'm very glad to have two wonderful guests. I have of the Colella dynasty. I have the son of Stan, Len Colella, and his son, Nick, all of which were trumpet players. And we're going to start off by talking about Stan Colella, who is famous as a big band leader in Syracuse, and he backed up many, many famous people at the New York State Fair for many years and did most of the big society gigs there. So to get this started, I'll turn this over to Len and have him talk about his father and some of the things he did. So all yours.
Well, I could go on for hours, Bob. Thanks for having us, first of all. Really appreciate this. Yeah, my dad was a very, very interesting inception of his musical career. When he was 7 years old, he entered the Edwards Amateur Hour, and he didn't have a trumpet, but he used to do sugar blues with his hands.
Oh, really?
And he won the contest when he was 7 years old.
Is he originally from Syracuse?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. He was born right on Manila Street, right on the north side.
North side.
Yeah, north side of Syracuse. And then when he was 12 years old, he got his first trumpet. And then by his early to mid-teens, he was actually playing the jazz chair with Bob Romeo's big band. He really started at a young age, and then basically from that 12 years old when he got his first trumpet, I think he studied at Stagnita's when he was younger. And
So when did he start his first big band?
well, he had always played with other musicians, but in 1971 he actually filed his DBA and started his first big band. And the name of the band was called The Big Band Sound of Stan Colella, His Trumpet and Orchestra. That was the whole title on the DBA. And actually, the funny story is back in 1971 he started his band, and shortly thereafter they played their first big society dance, and it was for all the linemen at National Grid, the old NIMO.
It was probably at Hotel Syracuse.
No, it was actually at the place over on the Party House. It used to be on Erie Boulevard.
Erie Boulevard.
Yeah, it was a big steak place out there. And right in the middle of the dance, there was a big winter storm, and all the linemen got called out. So basically, we were playing to a half-empty room. And the guys in the band said, "Oh my God, this band will never take off. This band, is doomed from the first gig." And we're actually on our 50th anniversary year.
Were you playing with him at the time?
No,
Yeah. Did you go along to help, or you were
in
like
1971, I was 6 years old.
Oh, okay. So you were home watching TV.
I was home watching television, you know. Yeah. And, it's one thing, and it's funny you say that, because where was I? As a kid growing up in a musical family, with my father never went to play. He always went to work. The band was always a job for him.
Yeah.
So he was always working, he was always playing, he was always doing something.
Yeah, I know that, and my kids have thought of me like
that.
that.
You've lived it, yeah.
So how did he get his first contract to do a bigger thing that led to the fair, for example? Something must have led up to his notoriety
well,
to get the...
when the band first started out, it was almost like a whirlwind. They were playing the concerts, the conventions. Back then, you had places like Bristol Myers. They were having society dances, National Grid, Carrier,
right.
New Process Gear.
Yeah.
Every time there was a party, the Stan Colella Orchestra was playing it.
I see.
And then when a lot of the major entertainers came through the area, they would, they needed a musician, and my father would book the musicians.
Were there any other, like now, there's 3 or 4 big bands in Syracuse. Of course, a lot of the players are interchangeable, but at that time, were there other big bands?
Well, him and Mario DeSantis.
DeSantis.
Yeah, they were the 2 big bands in Syracuse, and there was plenty of work. I can remember as a kid growing up, if my father was playing 250 to 270 gigs a year.
Really? Wow.
That was crazy.
Wow.
I had one of a good saxophone player that actually lives out in Las Vegas now was telling me that when he was playing at the inception of the Stan Colella Orchestra, he couldn't keep his day job because he was working so much at night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
So what led up, how did he get the state fair?
Well, that was an appointed position.
It was,
Shortly after he started the band in '71, the city of Syracuse named him the music director of the Syracuse Parks and Recreation All-Star Band. And then shortly after that, he was appointed the music director of the New York State Fair.
Oh, I see.
And my father was actually responsible from the inception of actually starting the free stage at
Oh, really?
Miller
Yeah.
Court. Well,
Yeah,
actually,
Miller Court.
technically it was Empire Court.
Yeah.
Then it was Miller Court.
Right.
Then it was back to Empire. Now it's Chevy Court.
Yeah.
But back in 2002, the stage at the State Fair was actually named after my father. So it's actually the Stan Colella stage
Oh,
at
it
Chevy
is.
Court.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the people that he performed with. You mentioned there was something he did with Louis Armstrong. And
When he was very young, he actually entered a contest and he won to play the national anthem at Archbold Stadium with Louis Armstrong.
Oh, really? They brought
Yeah.
Louis Armstrong
Yeah.
to do that? Wow.
And it was pretty neat. I brought a picture of my dad with Louis.
Yeah.
And then later on in the years, I said earlier how he used to do the Clyde McCoy Sugar Blues with his hands. He actually met Clyde McCoy down the road, and he showed him the right way how to do it with with the mute and the cup mute and the mute
Right.
tone. Yeah.
Is that right? Huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
But he, he's played. I can remember as a kid going backstage and having shows with Bob Hope, Engelbert Humperdinck.
He did
Pat
some
Boone.
Tony Bennett. Did he ever work with
He's worked with Tony Bennett a lot, to the point where they became such good friends that every time Tony was in town, they used to go out to dinner together.
Really? Wow.
I can remember Tony Bennett coming to the New York State Fair when I was younger.
Right.
And while Tony and my father were on stage performing, his daughter Antonia and I would go to the grandstand and watch the paid shows.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So.
When did you start helping out? I mean, did you end up being like a helper before you actually played, or?
When I started out as a kid, I played the trumpet when I was in elementary school. I started actually in 3rd and 4th grade, 5th grade, and then I got braces, and I literally stopped playing the trumpet until about 10, 12 years ago. I literally just stopped.
Oh, I see.
And then after I took over the band, I just felt the calling. I just had to pick up the horn again.
Right, yeah.
But, when I was a kid, my father would drag me to go set up the band.
Right.
So
Free labor.
free labor,
Did he,
yeah.
did
It
he
was
pay
child
you?
labor back then.
Did he pay you?
Believe me, yeah. I hate
It's
to
a
say-
lot of work. People don't realize
it's a lot
what
of
you got to
work.
do, all the stands
Yeah,
and everything.
but
yeah.
the funny thing is if it would take a half an hour to set the band up or 45 minutes, by the time my father ran into somebody,
And
it was a 4 or 5 hour band trip because he's talking this, he's talking that, and when my father walked in a room, this is very he lit up the room. He was just a very,
I personally
very personable
remember his.
individual.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And when Stan walked in a room, he knew he was in a room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played there with Jane Walsh. When was it? 75?
I'm guessing it was the middle of 1975 era around there.
Yeah.
I actually remember that show. I remember you when I was
did?
10 years old. I remember you.
Yeah. Well, I was only 12 though. That's the
Right.
Yeah, I did
remember
a
that.
show with Jane Walsh. She's of course, from Auburn originally, and we did a big band show there. And I always remember it because it was she was going out with Stan Getz, and there was talk that Stan Getz was going to come, and all the tenor players all the sax players were Stan Getz plays, and it was. But anyways, I do remember your father. He was a great gentleman and very nice. I don't remember how he got it. I think he contacted us and came to a club we were playing, and he said, "Do you want to do a big band thing?" And I would like to mention 2 great musicians from Auburn did charts. Frank Fody was a trumpet player.
Right.
He did charts for us, and Tommy Davis, who was a trumpet player of all things, did the rock things, Ease On Down the Road.
That was a great arrangement.
Yeah. Let's also include your son and talk about the new generation of musicians coming up. So I'm assuming you never got much time with your grandfather.
No, because I was 2.5 to 3.
2.5
He
years
passed
old.
Oh, he
away.
died. Okay,
Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
never. Obviously, his influence has been felt because you're. Why did you
Yeah.
take up the trumpet? Was it just like a foregone conclusion that you would play it, or did you think you were really into it? Or,
I think it was just kind of like passed down, so I just picked it up that way.
it was expected.
Yeah, I guess it was expected, but I just fell in love with it, so
Yeah.
I guess it was meant to be.
Plus, we have a dozen of them at home.
Oh, do you? Well, yeah, they're all around
you
the
turn,
house.
You turn every corner, there's a trumpet line around.
Well, even when I was-
You can't make planners out of them, or can you?
Yeah.
When I was 2 or 3 years old, I think Grandpa ran out and bought plastic trumpets, like a
Oh,
blue
really?
trumpet.
That's right. Yeah.
I still have it, but that was just pretty much in my hands when I was 1 or 2 years
So
old.
let's talk about a little what you're doing. You're down in Philadelphia, and tell
Yeah.
us what you're studying with some people.
I'm currently at St. Joe's University. I'm studying marketing. I'm a junior there, but I would like to pursue a jazz studies degree somewhere after I graduate next year. So I'm gonna start looking at a bunch of schools for that.
Right. And you're studying with some big time
Yeah, I'm
players
studying
now.
with right now currently with Tony DeSantis and John Swana.
Can I ask you a question? We didn't talk about this before, but could you ever see yourself having a big band?
Yeah, that was always a goal of mine, and I started writing some charts to get myself into that world so I can start making a book for myself too. But it's a lot of work, I know, from firsthand experience.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we were just talking before we did the show about how hard it is to make a living as a musician, especially in jazz, because, of course, a lot of people don't like it. The big band thing, I look at it, not to say it's not jazz, I look at it as a separate entity from jazz. I think if you told people we're going to have a jazz concert, and you told people there's going to be a big band concert, you're going to get more people out because they kind of think of it like, well, Glenn Miller, they're going to think of back.
Yeah. Well, when you think of big band, you think of a dance and it's something that people can interact with.
Right.
Where you think of jazz, you think people just sit and listen.
Right, right. They said, unfortunately, bebop was the downfall of jazz when the players started to get beyond what the average person could take in. And so that leads us to another subject, how we came together here. I did a show about Club Dickman.
That's right.
And if people didn't see it, as a matter of fact, I'd recommend you can go on YouTube and see that show because it spurred some interest in big band dances. And that's where I connected with Len, and we started doing them in Auburn. But that show was about Club Dickman, which a lot of people don't know. They know it as a greenhouse and a place that sells flowers. But from 1933 to 62, it was a big band venue. And there's still a lot of people alive who went there, people that were proposed to there, and people have fond memories of it. And because of that, Len and I got together, and now we have put on, let's see, what did we do? Four. We've done four big band dances in Auburn, and they've been very successful. And we would hope to go on with that and keep them going. We're planning one right now. We haven't come up with a date. And so let me open up this door to you, Len. You just did a recording of your band. So let's talk a little bit about that and when you expect to.
Yeah, the funny thing is last year, I just had this idea, let's get the guys together, get them in the studio, because the last recording we did was back in 2005 or 2006. We actually went up to Setner Auditorium and did a recording with the full 30-piece orchestra. I had a full string section. We did some big band charts, and I decided to do the traditional big band stuff. And we're actually coming up on our 50th anniversary. So it was a pretty novel idea to get all the guys in the studio. And we did a 3-hour recording session. We had Joe Whiting singing with us, David Baker, and my good friend Rocco Barbado that I grew up with. He's going to be doing sax and singing on one of the charts. And Nick played on it, and he actually did one of the arrangements that Joe, Terry, and Mark wrote. So guys in the band says, why are you doing a recording? I said, we're doing it just for the fun of it.
Right.
So we actually, the funny thing is I just actually got these a couple weeks ago. And the CD's called Just for Fun.
Oh, good. All right.
So it's
so when of course this show will be shown into the future, but when will this be coming out?
We're still working on a marketing plan to actually get it released.
Yeah. And you'll do a big band release party.
I'd like to do a big band release party, and I've always wanted to bring back our Dancing Under the Stars series because that was kind of abruptly ended back in 2006.
Now, where was that done?
City of Syracuse used to have us every year doing a Dancing Under the Stars series, and actually it was over 3 decades.
Was that in a certain location?
Yeah, we should do it every summer at Sunnycrest Ice Skating Rink. And I can remember as a kid when my father first started it back in the 70s, they would draw thousands and thousands of people.
Really? And the city would sponsor it?
The city would sponsor it.
Yeah, unfortunately, half of those things don't happen anymore.
Yeah, the city sponsored it, and actually the American Federation of Musicians used to sponsor it too. It was back the days of the old green sheets.
Yeah, I remember that. The recording fund funds, they don't have it.
And then after my father passed back in 2002, I took it over, and we were doing them every year, and then it kind of abruptly ended in 2016. So it's my game plan is actually to kind of reintroduce the Dancing Under the Stars series and privatize it under, promote them myself. or us promote them.
Right.
But I'd like to do a Dancing on the Stars and a CD release
Wow,
together,
that
which I
would
thought
be great, and I'm
be a
sure
great.
that'll help. Let me ask you both a question coming from two perspectives. I'll ask you, and then Nick can answer. What do you think about the future of big bands? I mean, you might have a different perspective from that.
It's funny. I think big bands will always be around. When I was a kid growing up, I was listening to the Police, the Kinks, Genesis,
Right. Typical rock. Stuff
Harry
right there.
James, Louis
Oh,
Prima.
at the
So
same
I
time.
really, that was
Yeah.
really my.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I was in a high school band, we did Gigolo.
Yeah.
Everybody says, "Oh, that's
David Lee Roth.
Well, no, it's really
No.
Louis Prima,
Yeah,
But all
right.
the kids in 1985,
They-
1984 said,
yeah.
"Oh, that's
Yeah.
David Lee Roth." Well,
Right.
it's really Louis Prima.
Yeah.
But the music is always circular. It's always coming back.
Well, my theory on that is the world goes. I hate to be pessimistic, but there's so many bad things happening in the world today. I think things get bad. People want to go back to older times.
Yeah.
Isn't there a certain comfort, no matter how old you are, in watching one of those old black and white movies?
Yeah.
For example, there's something about that.
Yeah.
In people, I think what it is, people always envision that times past were better. They weren't necessarily. Think about the big band era. It was World War II,
I know.
basically. Millions of people were dying, but people look back on it as a great nostalgic thing. So,
Yeah.
so Nick, what do you think from your younger perspective? What do you think about? Be honest, even with your father here. What's the future of big bands in the United States, for example?
I think it all depends on if you just keep doing like the big band that's like right now or like in the past and keep trying to market that. I don't think it will be that successful in the future with my generation. But I think if you tailor the charts to make them sound more hip, and if you do songs that people recognize, like when you look at the standards in the American Songbook, a lot of the songs that were popular were songs that were popular in those musicals and whatnot at the time.
Exactly, yeah.
And right now, there's not really many songs that are being tailored for current musicals,
You could
current
take
movies, or
anything
current whatever.
tailored. I'll get you. You could take Taylor Swift, and you could make a big band shot.
Yeah.
I've wondered for songs. And whether that's the way to go, I don't know. Whether that's going to bring young people in, because the sound may still be foreign to them, hearing, excuse me, trumpets and things.
Yeah.
So the thing is, whether they're going to adapt themselves to the sound, whether the songs alone will do it. But that is an idea to do hipper thing.
Yeah.
You don't want to get too hip. For example, take Don Ellis. Nobody's going to
Right.
come to a dance
Yeah.
where Don, famous, how would you call him, modern kind of player. I don't think people would want to dance to his music necessarily. But so you think there's a future? Would you ever consider putting together a big band coming back and
Yeah, I would like to.
take
I
over
don't know
the
if
reins?
the only thing is I don't know if the big band of having all musicians, because like some bands have like 5 trumpets or
Right.
4 or 5
Big
trombones,
band,
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So you have to tailor everything to the club and tailor it to the setting. And
Right, yeah, exactly. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you could, as a matter of fact, people called the orchestras at Dickman's a big band, and on investigation, they were 8 and 9 piece groups.
Right.
Yeah.
They call them, because in people's minds, you get 2 trumpets, two saxes, rhythm sax. To most people, that's a bit,
Yeah.
and it did have that sound. You listen to the recordings we found from then, it did have a big band sound. A lot of it's economics, though. It's hard to have an actual big band would
Yeah.
be 16
Well,
people.
Yeah, the
now.
shows we did was technically a little big band. We had 13 guys.
Right, yeah. And to
Yeah.
most people, I think. And then you start adding the vocalists. On some things, we had 3 vocalists.
Right,
so
we did.
In guitar.
Right.
The guitar is always the last addition to a big band, but it's all right. But because
That's a great addition, though.
if you're going to cut down on one guy, except if it was Freddie Green, who played with Count Basie.
Right, exactly.
The most notorious rhythm guitar player in history. Just a side story. I went to the Castaways, which brought Count Basie here, and I sat right next to Freddie Green, this iconic,
Right.
great guitar player. He was right there. He had all these old yellow charts.
Yeah.
He was dressed to perfection. He looked like he had a custom tailor. His foot was like this, and all night long he hardly looked at his charts, and he played a chord on every beat, which was
Yeah.
his style. So he was definitely a hero to a lot of guitar players. Okay, so I think we covered most of what we're going to end up today with a little bit of playing with 2 trumpets and guitar. But is there anything else that you guys can think of you would like to add before we conclude this show? Did we get all the
How about you?
relevant points in here?
I would just say about where you can find the Stan Colella Orchestra.
Oh, yeah. That's see, marketing.
Right. Yeah, Mark.
Mom and I are proud of you after you spent all that money on tuition. Thanks to him, actually, a couple years ago, we came up with our Facebook page. So it was Stan Colella Orchestra Facebook.
Yeah.
And then we actually have our website, www.stancolellaorchestra.com.
Yeah, definitely you should.
And we're constantly updating that. When we do release the CD, we'll have it available on PayPal.
Yeah.
And then our upcoming dance, hopefully, you and I are going to do. We had tickets available on PayPal with that also through
Right.
our Facebook page. So
Yeah, these days marketing is everything. How
Yeah.
about having doing something on YouTube where people can actually view the
we're
band?
going to release a
you know what
couple
I mean?
of our recordings on
Yeah.
YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea
Yeah.
too. Yeah, but
We
I
have a YouTube channel also. It's Stan Colella Orchestra.
when you have something like this, it's a little harder to sell. Marketing is definitely
Yeah.
you want to find the people are out there. They just have to know about it. As a matter of fact, when we put on the big bands, I had people call from Rochester go, "Oh, I didn't know about that," and I heard from
I know.
you know it's people of course it's a little easier today with Facebook and so on, but people don't know and they aren't going to
Yeah.
come if they don't
Yeah.
know. So
The only downside of the dances we were doing is we kind of had to limit it to 200 people.
right
Because of the size of the room and the size
venue.
of the
and
dance
actually we
floor.
did fill
Yeah,
it
we
a couple
filled
of
it.
times.
Yeah, we filled it up pretty much every time.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah.
And we want to make it clear that when we say a big band dance, I would say 50%, if not more, of the people aren't dancers. They're actually coming for
The music.
the music
Yeah.
and the venue and just having a good time in that, you know, with that setting in the background. So when we do something in the future, don't feel like we do have some great dancers that come there and fill the floor, but
It's great just to watch them.
yeah, and there's a lot of people, especially the older folks we have. They come in. Some of them are in walkers. They can't dance, but they'll come there because of the nostalgia of the big bands and so on. So, okay, well, it's a pleasure having you guys.
It was great to have us.
Thank you.
Once
We
again,
really appreciate it.
we were talking basically about Stan Colella, and this is his son Len and his son Nick. All three trumpet players.
Three generations.
Stan Colella was a legend in the Syracuse area, and he backed up many famous people that came to the state fair, so we especially wanted to get that in. So thank you very much, and we're going to leave with a little bit of music at the end of the show. Thank you.